The email from Swiss National Bank arrived during my morning coffee. Dear Ms. Emma Crawford, this is a courtesy notification regarding attempted access to account #7749. I nearly dropped my phone, my hands shaking as I read further. Someone had tried to access my grandmother's private account, an account only she and I knew existed. My phone rang almost immediately. Emma, darling. My mother's voice dripped with artificial sweetness. We need you to come over for dinner tonight. We have some family matters to discuss. Family matters. That's what they always called it when they were about to drop a bomb. I'd heard that phrase when they announced their divorce, when Dad remarried 2 years ago, and when they declared my stepbrother Jason was taking over the family business. I'll be there, I replied, keeping my voice neutral. I already knew what this dinner would be about. Walking into my parents' sprawling mansion that evening felt like entering a carefully staged play. Mom, Dad, his new wife Patricia, and my stepbrother Jason were all seated in the formal dining room, looking far too pleased with themselves. Emma, sweetie, sit down, Mom gestured to the only empty chair. At 32, I was being treated like a child about to be disciplined. We need to talk about your grandmother's inheritance. Ah, there it was. My grandmother Eleanor had passed away 6 months ago, leaving behind what everyone thought was a modest estate. The family knew about her main accounts, her properties, and her investments, all of which had been substantial. What they didn't know was that Grandma Eleanor had been far cleverer than anyone gave her credit for. What about it? I asked, taking a small sip of water. Dad cleared his throat, straightening his tie, a nervous habit he'd had since I was little. We've made some adjustments to the distribution of assets. Given the circumstances, we feel it's more appropriate for the inheritance to go to Jason's family. Jason, my 35-year-old stepbrother who'd never worked a day in his life, smirked from across the table. His wife Amanda, clutching their newborn son, nodded approvingly. After all, Patricia chimed in, they have a baby now. They need the security more than a single woman with a stable career. I sat there, letting their words wash over me. They went on about family responsibility, about doing what's right, about how I should understand. All I could think about was my last conversation with Grandma Eleanor. They'll try to take everything, she'd said, her blue eyes sharp despite her illness. Your father and his new family, your mother with her social climbing. They've been trying to get their hands on my real fortune for years. She pressed a small key into my palm. But I've made sure they can't. The Swiss account, that's your safety net, my darling. Don't tell them, not until you have to. We've already transferred most of the assets, Mom was saying, pulling me back to the present. The properties, the investments, the main accounts, all redistributed to provide for the baby's future. I see, I said quietly. And you didn't think to consult me? Oh, Emma, Mom sighed, don't be difficult. You know this is for the best. You've always been so independent. You don't need the money like they do. I watched as Jason and Amanda exchanged triumphant looks. My mother dabbed at imaginary tears with her monogram napkin, while Dad avoided my gaze entirely. They thought they'd won, thought they'd managed to strip me of my grandmother's legacy. Well, I said, standing up, if that's all decided, I should get going. Early meeting tomorrow. That's it? Jason asked, clearly disappointed by my lack of reaction. No argument. I smiled, thinking of the Swiss bank's email. What's there to argue about? You've clearly made up your minds. As I walked to my car, my phone buzzed again. Another email from Swiss National Bank. Unauthorized access attempt blocked. Security protocols activated. Please contact your account manager at your earliest convenience. I started my car, thinking about the fortune hidden away in that Swiss account. The one my grandmother had spent decades building in secret. The one worth 3 times what my family thought they'd just stolen. Sometimes the best revenge isn't an argument. It's letting people think they've won, right up until the moment they realize they never had a chance. The next morning, I sat in a pristine office of Mr. Weber, the Swiss bank's local representative. The leather chair creaked softly as I shifted, watching him review the security protocols on his computer. Miss Crawford, he said, his accent slight but precise. Your grandmother was quite thorough in her preparations. The attempted access triggered several security measures she put in place. I nodded, thinking of how methodical Grandma Eleanor had always been. What exactly did they try to do? He turned his monitor, showing me a series of documents. They presented forged papers claiming power of attorney, attempting to transfer the accounts to various names, primarily Jason Crawford and Amanda Crawford. Of course they had. I could picture my mother's handwriting on the forgeries, Dad's signature carefully mimicked. They probably spent weeks planning this, thinking they were so clever. The interesting part, Mr. Weber continued, a small smile playing at his lips, is that your grandmother anticipated this exact scenario. She left specific instructions. He pulled out a sealed envelope, the paper thick and expensive. This was to be delivered to you only if someone attempted unauthorized access. My hands trembled slightly as I opened it, recognizing Grandma Eleanor's elegant handwriting. My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, they've finally shown their true colors. I've watched them circle like vultures for years, your father becoming weaker under Patricia's influence, your mother's greed growing with each passing day. But you, my darling girl, you've remained true to yourself. The account they tried to access is only the beginning. There's more, much more. Mr. Weber has all the details. Show them what real power looks like. All I love, Grandma Eleanor. Mr. Weber cleared his throat. Your grandmother set up an intricate network of accounts and investments. The attempted breach has activated her contingency plan. Would you like to proceed? I thought about last night's dinner, about Jason's smug face, about Patricia's condescending tone. Yes, I said firmly. Show me everything. Over the next 2 hours, Mr. Weber revealed the full scope of Grandma Eleanor's fortune. The Swiss account was just the tip of the iceberg. There were investment portfolios, real estate holdings, and offshore accounts, all carefully hidden from the family's prying eyes. And now, he said, typing something into his computer, per your grandmother's instructions, we can begin the process of reclaiming the assets they've attempted to transfer. My phone buzzed. A panicked text from Mom. Emma, something's wrong with the accounts. Call me immediately. Then Dad. We need to talk. It's urgent. Even Jason, who never texted me, sent a message. What did you do? I silenced my phone, turning back to Mr. Weber. What exactly is happening to their accounts? He'd adjusted his glasses. The properties they attempted to transfer are being frozen pending investigation of fraudulent documentation. The investment accounts they accessed are being audited. And he paused, allowing himself a small smile. The trust fund they set up for Jason's baby is being reviewed for potential criminal activity. I sat back, letting it sink in. Grandma Eleanor hadn't just protected my inheritance. She'd set up a trap for anyone who tried to steal it. My phone kept buzzing. Patricia was calling now, probably realizing their perfect plan was unraveling. Amanda was sending multiple texts, each more desperate than the last. There's one more thing, Mr. Weber said, pulling out another envelope. Your grandmother left instructions about the family business. I opened it, reading quickly. Then read it again, hardly believing what I was seeing. She left me controlling interest in the company. He nodded. Hidden in a shell corporation. The paperwork is ironclad. Your father only thought he had transferred control to Jason. In reality, he never had the authority to do so. I stood by the window, watching the city below. All those years of being underestimated, of being told I was too independent, too focused on my career, not family-oriented enough. And all along, Grandma Eleanor had been watching, planning, preparing. What would you like to do next, Miss Crawford? Mr. Weber asked. I turned back to him, my decision made. Begin the process. All of it. And Mr. Weber, please make sure every transaction is completely transparent. I want them to see exactly what's happening. As I left his office, my phone buzzed one final time. A text from my mother. Please, Emma, we can explain everything. Don't do this to your family. I thought about family, about what that word really meant. About Grandma Eleanor, who'd seen through their facades and planned accordingly. About the way they tried to take everything from me, thinking I wouldn't fight back. Sorry, I typed back. But you should have thought about family before you tried to steal mine. 3 weeks later, I sat in what used to be my father's office at Crawford Industries, reviewing the final documentation of the company's restructuring. The view from the top floor hadn't changed, but everything else had. My phone lit up with a message from Mr. Weber. All transfers complete. Legal proceedings initiated. Would you like to proceed with the family meeting? Yes, I replied. Send them up. I heard them before I saw them. Mom's heels clicking frantically on the marble floor, Dad's heavy footsteps, Patricia's shrill voice carrying through the hallway. The security team, newly hired, opened the door to let them in. They looked different now. Gone was the smugness, replaced by barely concealed panic. Jason's designer suit was wrinkled. Amanda's perfect makeup couldn't hide her sleepless nights, and Patricia's collected demeanor had cracked completely. "Emma," Mom started, stepping forward, "you'd have to stop this madness. We're your family." I gestured to the chairs arranged before the desk. "Please sit down. We have a lot to discuss." "Discuss?" Patricia scoffed. "You've frozen our accounts. The house, the cars, everything's being investigated. Jason can't even access his credit cards." I opened the leather portfolio on my desk, removing several documents. "Actually, you mean my house, my cars, and my company's credit cards. Let's talk about fraud, shall we?" Dad shifted uncomfortably. "Now, sweetheart, we can explain." "The forged power of attorney documents," I interrupted. "The falsified transfer papers, or perhaps the backdated company ownership documents you tried to create for Jason." Amanda clutched her baby closer. "Think about your nephew. You're taking away his future." "No," I corrected her. "I'm protecting his future from people who think fraud is a family value." I spread out the documents, watching their faces as they recognized Grandma Eleanor's signature, the bank statements, the property deeds, all the proof of what they tried to steal. "Grandmother left everything to me," I explained calmly. "The company, the properties, the investments, all of it. She knew you'd try something like this. She prepared for it. Those accounts you thought you were accessing? Decoys. The real fortune was hidden where you'd never think to look." "You can't do this to us," Mom whispered, her voice shaking. "Actually, I can. And I am. But," I paused, pulling out another set of documents, "I'm also giving you a choice." They leaned forward, hope flickering in their eyes. "Option 1. I proceed with the legal charges. Fraud, forgery, attempted theft. The prosecutors are very interested in this case. You'll lose everything, including your freedom." Jason's face went pale. Patricia grabbed Dad's arm. "Option 2. I continued, you sign these papers. They're resignation letters, legal agreements, and statements admitting what you did. Sign them, and I'll allow you each a modest monthly allowance. Enough to live comfortably, but not extravagantly. You'll have no access to company assets, no control over any properties, and no contact with business operations." "And the baby?" Amanda asked quietly. I softened slightly. "I've set up a trust fund for him. One that only I can control. He'll have everything he needs for education and a good start in life. But you and Jason won't have access to it." They huddled together, whispering frantically. I watched them, remembering all the family dinners where they'd plotted against me, all the times they dismissed my achievements, all the ways they tried to manipulate Grandma Eleanor's legacy. Finally, Dad reached for a pen. One by one, they signed the documents, their signatures shaky but clear. "You'll receive your first allowance next month," I said, gathering the papers. "The security team will escort you out. Don't try to contact me directly. Everything will go through the lawyers from now on." As they turned to leave, Mom paused at the door. How long had she been planning this? "Years," I replied. "Grandmother saw who you really were long before you showed me." After they left, I walked to the window, watching their cars pull away from the building. My phone buzzed with a message from Mr. Weber. "All documents received. Shall we proceed with the charitable foundation your grandmother outlined?" I smiled, thinking of Grandma Eleanor's final gift, not just the fortune, but the wisdom to use it well. "Yes," I replied. "Let's begin." Opening my desk drawer, I pulled out her last photo, taken at my graduation. She was beaming with pride, her eyes twinkling with the secret she kept all those years. "You were right, Grandma," I whispered. "Sometimes the best revenge isn't just about winning. It's about proving them wrong about who you are." I turned back to my computer, ready to start building something new, something that would make her truly proud. Sometimes, family isn't about blood or names. It's about who believes in you enough to help you become your strongest self. The smell of burning flesh still haunts me. I remember the searing pain, the sound of my skin sizzling, and Vanessa's cold eyes watching as she pressed the scorching curling iron against my cheek. "Now you won't be the pretty one anymore," she'd whispered. "I'm Sophia, 24, and until last week, I was the blessed child with my mother's classic beauty. My sister Vanessa, 28, had spent years living in what she perceived as my shadow. But shadows, I learned, can hide dangerous things. It was an accident. My mother insisted in the emergency room, her hand squeezing my arm too tightly. Vanessa was helping Sophia style her hair for the family photos. The curling iron slipped. I sat silent, the right side of my face covered in gauze, listening to my mother spin her web of lies. The ER nurse gave me doubtful looks as she documented my injury, noting how the burn pattern didn't match an accidental slip. Vanessa feels terrible, my father added, pacing the small examination room. She's absolutely devastated. You know how close you girls are. Close, I almost laughed. We hadn't been close since I turned 16 and started modeling part-time for local boutiques. The same boutiques that had rejected Vanessa's portfolios months earlier. That's when the accidents began. My shampoo mysteriously replaced with hair-stripping chemicals. My face cream tainted with something that caused rashes, and now this. The patient shows signs of a deliberate contact burn. The ER doctor noted, speaking directly to me despite my parents' attempts to intercept the conversation. I'm referring you to Dr. Lin, our best plastic surgeon. She'll want to document this thoroughly. That won't be necessary, my mother jumped in. Our family doctor can handle the follow-up care. The ER doctor's eyes narrowed. This requires specialized treatment to minimize scarring. Dr. Lind is your best option. He handed me, not my parents, the referral card. She's expecting you tomorrow morning. That night, back at my apartment, my phone buzzed constantly with family messages. Mom, please, sweetie, think about Vanessa's future. A report like this could ruin her career prospects. Dad, we're family. We handle things internally. Vanessa. I'm so sorry, Soph. You know I'd never hurt you intentionally. Please don't make this bigger than it is. I touched the bandage gently, wincing at the pain. In the bathroom mirror, I could see edges of the burn extending beyond the gauze, a perfect straight line that no accident could create. The next morning, I arrived at Dr. Lin's office alone, having turned off my phone to avoid more family pressure. The waiting room was serene, with soft music and gentle lighting that somehow made me feel safer than I felt in years. Sophia, a petite woman in her 40s, appeared, wearing a white coat with Dr. Emily Lin, plastic and reconstructive surgery, embroidered on it. Come with me. Her office was warm and professional, with walls lined with before and after photos of her work. But what caught my eye was a small poster about burn trauma and domestic violence. Let's take a look, she said gently, putting on gloves. As she removed the bandage, her experienced fingers traced the edge of the burn without touching it. Can you tell me exactly how this happened? I opened my mouth to repeat the rehearsed story about the accident, but something in her kind, knowing eyes made me pause. Take your time, she said, photographing the injury from different angles. But know that burn patterns tell their own story. This, she pointed to the screen showing the close-up images, is a deliberate contact burn. The pressure was sustained and consistent. No slip or accident creates this pattern. My hands started trembling in my lap. Your ER report mentions a sister, Dr. Lin continued, her voice careful but firm. And parents who were very involved in explaining the injury. They want to handle it privately, I whispered. And what do you want, Sophia? That question, so simple yet so foreign, broke something inside me. No one had asked what I wanted. Not when Vanessa's accident started, not when my parents covered for her, not even last night as they bombarded me with messages protecting her interests. My voice cracked, I want it to stop. Dr. Lin sat down, placing her iPad on the desk. What I'm seeing here is a deliberate injury that requires documentation. As a mandated reporter, I have obligations. But more importantly, as your doctor, I'm concerned about both your physical and emotional safety. My family won't support this, I said, voicing my biggest fear. They don't have to, she replied firmly. You're an adult, and this is your face, your life, and your choice. I can help you heal this burn and minimize scarring, but only you can decide if you're ready to address why it happened. She pulled out a card with another name on it, a trauma counselor specializing in family violence. The choice is yours, Sophia. But know that whatever you decide, my medical documentation will reflect the truth of what happened to you. For the first time since the curling iron touched my skin, I felt a flicker of something beyond pain and fear. It felt like hope. Dr. Lin started preparing her examination tools, and I realized we were at a crossroads. Behind me lay years of family secrets and excuses. Ahead lay an uncertain path, but one where at least the truth wouldn't be burned away. Dr. Lin, I said, my voice stronger now, I'd like to tell you what really happened. Dr. Lin's office became my sanctuary as I detailed every accident Vanessa had orchestrated over the years. The chemical burns from tainted beauty products, the mysterious cuts on my modeling portfolios, the misplaced medications that left me sick before important castings. These photos will be part of your medical record, Dr. Lin said, documenting every angle of the burn. The pattern shows at least 15 seconds of sustained contact. This was no accident. My phone, which I turned back on briefly, exploded with notifications. Vanessa had posted on social media, devastated about my sister's accident. Family is everything, praying for quick healing. The comments were flooding in, people praising her for being such a caring sister. Your sister is creating her narrative, Dr. Lin observed, noting my expression. Common tactic, controlling the story before the truth comes out. A text from my mother made my hand shake. Vanessa's having a breakdown over this. She's threatening self-harm. You need to come home now. They're using guilt, I whispered, showing Dr. Lin the message. They always do this. It's manipulation, she stated firmly, reaching for her office phone. And if your sister is truly threatening self-harm, the proper response isn't to cover up what she did. It's to get her professional help. She dialed a number. Detective Rivera, the case we discussed this morning. The patient's ready to talk. Within an hour, Detective Sarah Rivera sat in Dr. Lin's office, her kind but professional demeanor helping me feel secure as I filed my report. The burn was just the latest in a pattern, I explained. Years of escalating incidents, all dismissed by my parents as sibling rivalry or accidents. Your sister's social media post actually helps us, Detective Rivera noted, scrolling through her phone. She's acknowledging the incident occurred, though her version differs from the medical evidence. As if on cue, my father called. Detective Rivera nodded, indicating I should answer on speaker. Sophia, this has gone too far, he started, his voice tight with controlled anger. Your mother's had to sedate Vanessa. She's hysterical, saying you're trying to ruin her life. Whatever issues you girls have, we resolve them as a family. Detective Rivera caught my eye, mouthing keep him talking. Like we resolved the chemical burns last year? I asked, surprising myself with my steady voice. Or the sabotage medication that sent me to the hospital. Those were different, he stumbled. Vanessa was going through a difficult time then. She's been better, seeing that therapist we found. What therapist? This was news to me. A pause. Well, she was supposed to start seeing one. Your mother made some calls. But she never actually went, did she? Another pause. Sophia, please. If you pursue this, it will destroy our family. Vanessa's career in education. No school will hire her with an assault charge. Mr. Harrison, Detective Rivera spoke up, making my father gasp. Your daughter has third-degree burns on her face. Are you suggesting she should prioritize her attacker's career over her own safety? Who is this, Sophia? Are you recording this? I'm hanging up. Sir, Detective Rivera continued, I strongly suggest you and your wife come down to the station this afternoon. We have some questions about the previous incidents you just mentioned. After he hung up, I sat in stunned silence. Years of conditioning to keep quiet, to protect Vanessa, to preserve the family image, all crumbling under the weight of professional documentation and police involvement. The hardest part is done, Dr. Lin assured me, applying a special burn dressing to my face. Now we focus on healing, both the visible and invisible wounds. My phone buzzed again. Vanessa had texted a photo of us as children, both smiling, her arm around my shoulders. Remember when we were best friends? Before you started trying to overshadow me? I never wanted to hurt you, but you gave me no choice. If you do this, you'll regret it. Detective Rivera read the message, adding it to her evidence file. Classic abuser tactic, combining nostalgia with threats. This ends today, Sophia. As they outlined the next steps, restraining order, formal charges, documentation of previous incidents, I felt a strange lightness. The weight of family secrets was lifting, replaced by the clear light of truth. Your face will heal, Dr. Lin said, finishing the dressing. With proper treatment, scarring will be minimal. But more importantly, you're breaking a cycle of abuse. That kind of healing matters most. Looking in her office mirror, I saw beyond the bandages. I saw someone choosing herself over family obligations, truth over comfortable lies. One more thing, Detective Rivera added, we'll need to document any other communications from your family. They may escalate before this gets better. As if predicting the future, my phone lit up with my mother's call. This time, I let it ring. The path ahead would be difficult. But for the first time, I wasn't walking it alone. I had professionals who saw the truth, documented it, and stood ready to help me face whatever came next. Ready for the next step? Detective Rivera asked. I touched my bandaged face gently and nodded. Ready or not, the truth was finally burning brighter than any family lie. 3 months later, I sat in the courthouse corridor, touching the fading scar on my cheek. The makeup Dr. Lin had recommended covered it well, but I'd chosen not to hide it completely today. Some truths deserve to be seen. Vanessa sat at the other end of the hallway with our parents, all three dressed in subdued colors meant to convey remorse. She'd lost her teaching assistant position when the charges were filed, and according to family friends, had been playing the role of the regretful sister pushed to her breaking point by my constant competition. The prosecution's ready, Detective Rivera approached, now a familiar presence in my life. The documentation is solid. Dr. Lin's medical evidence, the historical pattern, your parents' recorded attempts to cover it up. Are you ready to face them? Before I could answer, my mother made one last attempt, breaking protocol to hurry over. Sweetheart, please. We can still fix this as a family. Vanessa's been seeing a real therapist now, making progress. She's written you a letter. Mrs. Harrison. Detective Rivera intercepted. Return to your seat or you'll be removed from the courthouse. I'm her mother, she hissed. You've turned my daughter against her own family. No, Mom. I stood up, my voice carrying in the quiet hallway. You did that when you chose to protect Vanessa instead of me, every time. The courtroom doors opened and we filed in. My parents sat directly behind Vanessa, a united front of denial. But they weren't the only family present today. Dr. Lin sat behind me, along with Sarah from the survivors group she'd recommended. Over the past months, they'd become my new support system, showing me what healthy support actually looked like. The proceedings began, and the prosecutor methodically presented the evidence. Dr. Lin's detailed medical documentation, photos of previous injuries, text messages, and social media posts showing Vanessa's manipulation. Police reports from accidents I'd been too afraid to pursue before. When Vanessa took the stand, she played her part perfectly. Tears welling up, she spoke about feeling overshadowed, about mental health struggles our parents had ignored, about how she'd just snapped that day with a curling iron. And do you regret your actions? Her lawyer asked. Every day, she whispered, looking at me with practiced remorse. I love my sister. I needed help, and no one saw it. It was a masterful performance. I'd almost believed such speeches myself many times before. But Dr. Lin's hand on my shoulder grounded me in reality. Then it was my turn. I walked to the stand, feeling Vanessa's stare, my parents' desperate gazes. Ms. Harrison, the prosecutor began, please tell the court about the day of the assault. I took a deep breath and told the truth. All of it. The years of escalating violence. The careful manipulation. The way she'd watch my skin burn, making sure the iron left a permanent mark. She said, now you won't be the pretty one anymore. I testified, my voice clear. And my parents told me to say it was an accident, like always. The judge's verdict came down like a thunderbolt. Guilty of assault with intent to cause grievous bodily harm. Mandatory psychiatric evaluation. 2 years probation. Restraining order made permanent. My parents wept. Vanessa's composed mask cracked, showing the rage beneath. But I felt only relief. Outside the courthouse, my mother made one final plea. You've destroyed our family, she accused. No, Dr. Lin stepped in, her presence protective. You destroyed it by enabling abuse. Sophia's just refusing to pretend anymore. Dad pulled Mom away, following Vanessa and her lawyer. They looked small somehow, their world of secrets and lies shrinking in the sunlight. Ready to go? Detective Rivera asked. The survivors group meets in an hour. Sarah's driving. I touched my scar again, feeling its smoothness under my fingers. Dr. Lin's skilled treatment had minimized the physical damage, but its presence reminded me of my strength. You know, I said, watching my biological family drive away. I used to think being pretty was what made me valuable. Vanessa thought so too. That's why she targeted my face. And now? Sarah asked, understanding in her eyes. Now I know my value isn't in my face. It's in my courage to speak truth, even when it cost me everything I thought was family. Dr. Lin smiled. That's the kind of healing that lasts forever. We walked to Sarah's car together. Detective, doctor, survivor advocate, and me. An unlikely family formed through trauma and truth, but stronger than the bonds of silence that had held me for so long. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. When you're ready to apologize to your sister, we'll be waiting. I deleted it without responding. Some bridges need to burn so you can build better ones. Let's go, I said to my new support system. I've got a different family waiting for me now. As we drove away from the courthouse, I caught my reflection in the car window. A scar was visible, a silver line of truth on my cheek, but my eyes were clear and bright, no longer shadowed by secrets. I was no longer the pretty one or the family scapegoat. I was simply myself, scarred, strong, and finally, irrevocably free. I always thought the shaking in my hands was getting worse because my condition was progressing. Every morning, I'd watch my mother count out my pills from the bottles she kept locked in her special medical cabinet. To keep them safe, she'd say. Being 23 and still living at home because of my chronic condition wasn't my life plan, but with increasingly severe symptoms, I had no choice. That Tuesday morning started like any other. Mom handed me my daily dose with a glass of water, watching intently as I swallowed each pill. Sarah, honey, you're looking a bit pale again, she said, her hand cool against my forehead. Maybe we should cancel your job interview. Mom, I need this job. Working from home as a graphic designer is perfect for my condition. I pulled away from her touch, tired of being treated like fragile glass. But sweetheart, remember last time? You had such a bad episode after pushing yourself. Her voice carried that familiar mixture of concern and authority that had governed my life for years. My older sister Kate walked in, already dressed for her hospital shift. Mom's right, Sarah. You can barely hold a spoon steady these days. Maybe it's time to apply for full disability. I looked down at my trembling hands, the same hands that had earned me an art scholarship before everything went downhill. The medication was supposed to control my essential tremors, but lately it seemed to be failing. Every increase in dosage only made me feel worse. The job interview was conducted online, and halfway through, the room started spinning. My words slurred and cold sweat beaded on my forehead. The interviewer's concerned face blurred on the screen as I apologized and ended the call. Mom. I called out, my voice weak. She was beside me instantly, as if she'd been waiting just outside the door. Something's wrong. You're just anxious, dear. Let's get you to bed. But this was different. My heart was racing, and the tremors were worse than ever. Through my mental fog, I remembered my neurologist's warning about missing doses. This felt exactly like what he described. I need to go to the hospital, I managed to say. Don't be dramatic, Sarah. Kate, tell your sister she's overreacting again. Kate appeared in my doorway, still in her scrubs. Sarah, this attention-seeking has to stop. You're making Mom upset. The room tilted sharply, and I fumbled for my phone. Mom reached for it, but I clutched it to my chest. If you call an ambulance, they'll think you're crazy, she warned. Do you want to end up in a psych ward? My fingers shook violently as I tried to dial 911. Mom and Kate exchanged that look, the one they perfected over years of dealing with what they called my episodes. But before either could stop me, I hit dial. The next few hours were a blur of sirens, urgent voices, and bright lights. In the ER, a nurse named Linda took my vitals, her eyes sharp and observant. How long have you been taking your medication? She asked, reviewing my chart. 2 years since the diagnosis, but it's not working anymore. Linda frowned, comparing something on her computer screen. Your blood levels are showing almost no trace of your prescribed medication. That's impossible if you've been taking them regularly. But I have. Mom gives them to me every morning. She watches me take them. Linda's expression shifted, and she glanced at the police officer stationed in the ER. Where are your medication bottles? In Mom's special cabinet. She keeps them locked up too. My voice trailed off as a terrible possibility began to dawn. The officer stepped forward and Linda placed a gentle hand on my arm. Sarah, we need to ask you some difficult questions about your mother's involvement in your medical care. In that moment, as the tremors racked my body and the truth began to emerge, I realized that the real sickness in my life hadn't been my condition at all. It had been brewing in my own home, dispensed daily by the very hands I trusted most. The hospital room became my sanctuary over the next 3 days. Under proper medication, my tremors decreased significantly for the first time in months. Detective Morris sat beside my bed, her notebook open as Linda, my ER nurse, stood by the door preventing anyone from entering. We found these in your mother's sewing box, Detective Morris said, placing an evidence bag on my lap. Inside were hundreds of tiny white pills and empty capsules. The lab confirmed these are your prescribed medications. Can you explain why they might be there? My hands started trembling again, but not from my condition. She must have been emptying the capsules before giving them to me. The words felt like glass in my throat. Sarah. My mother's voice carried from a hallway. These people are trying to turn you against me. I'm your mother. Linda closed the door firmly, muffling Mom's protests. Detective Morris showed me another photo. My mother's special medical cabinet had been full of carefully labeled bottles, but most contained nothing but sugar pills. Your blood work from the past 2 days shows dramatic improvement with proper medication. Linda explained, showing me my chart. Your previous hospital visits over the last 2 years showed dangerous fluctuations consistent with irregular medication administration. My phone buzzed continuously with messages from Kate. How could you do this to Mom? She only wanted to take care of you. You're tearing this family apart. Detective Morris noticed my distress. We've seen this before. It's called medical abuse by proxy, similar to Munchausen by proxy. Your mother kept you sick to maintain control. Memories flooded back. Mom's insistence on handling all my medications, her presence at every doctor's appointment, how she always spoke before I could describe my symptoms. The way she'd rush to help whenever I had an episode, usually after she'd given me my medicine. There's something else, Linda added gently. We found diary entries in your mother's notebook. She's been receiving your disability checks. My art supplies gathered dust in the corner of my room at home, dreams of graphic design fading with each trembling day. Mom had convinced me I was too sick to work, too fragile to live independently. Every time I'd shown improvement, every job interview I'd attempted. The shaking, it was withdrawal? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Yes, Linda confirmed. She'd give you doses sporadically, just enough to keep you dependent, but not enough to actually treat your condition. The detective handed me another evidence bag. Inside was my mother's diary, open to a damning entry. Sarah tried to apply for another job today. Had to increase her episodes. She doesn't understand that she needs me. Kate agrees it's for the best. My sweet, sick little girl must stay where I can protect her. Kate's involvement hit me like a physical blow. My own sister, a nurse, had known or at least suspected. Her constant reinforcement of Mom's concerns, her dismissal of my improving symptoms. We'll need your statement, Detective Morris said. But first, your neurologist wants to discuss adjusting your treatment plan. With proper medication, he believes you can live independently and pursue your career. A text from my Aunt Lisa appeared. I'm here when you're ready. The guest room is yours. She'd always seemed skeptical of Mom's intensely controlling care, but had been pushed away from the family for questioning it. Linda smiled encouragingly. You're not alone, Sarah. We have support services, counselors who specialize in cases like yours. And your test results prove everything. I looked at my hands, steady enough to hold a pencil, to use a computer mouse, to draw again. Steady enough to sign a police statement. Steady enough to take back my life. I'll make a statement, I said, my voice stronger than it had been in years. But first, I need to make a phone call. I dialed the graphic design firm from the failed interview. With my medical records proving what had really happened, they agreed to give me another chance. This time, no one would interrupt my opportunity. Outside my room, I could still hear Mom's accusations and Kate's angry demands, but they seemed distant now, like a storm moving away. In its place was something unfamiliar but welcome, possibility. Linda squeezed my shoulder. ready to tell your story. I picked up a pen, testing its weight in my steady hand. Yes, I answered. I've been quiet long enough. 6 months after my hospital stay, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror in my new apartment, steadily applying mascara. Something that would have been impossible before. My phone buzzed with a text from Aunt Lisa downstairs. Court in 1 hour. You've got this. Mom and Kate's trial was today. The prosecutor had built a solid case. Tampered medications, forged disability documents, and years of medical abuse. Kate faced separate charges for medical negligence and conspiracy, her nursing license already suspended. I smoothed my blazer, checking my portfolio one last time. After court, I had a client meeting for my growing graphic design business. 3 successful months of working from my home office had proven that I was far from disabled. The courthouse hallway felt colder than I remembered. Aunt Lisa squeezed my hand as we passed Mom and Kate sitting with their lawyers. Mom reached for me, her face crumpling in that familiar manipulative way. Sarah, please. Everything I did was out of love. I walked past without acknowledging her. My therapist called it gray rocking, showing no emotion, giving them nothing to manipulate. The evidence was overwhelming. Hospital records showed my dramatic improvement once proper medication was administered. The prosecution displayed photos of Mom's medical cabinet, rows of bottles filled with sugar pills and empty capsules. Her diary entries revealed years of calculated abuse. When it was my turn to testify, I faced my family directly. Mom's eyes brimmed with tears, and Kate stared at the floor. The defendant didn't just steal my medication, I stated clearly. She stole years of my life. While my condition is manageable with proper treatment, she convinced me I was deteriorating. Every dream I had was dismissed as unrealistic. Every improvement was sabotaged. I held up my steady hands. These hands can draw again. They can type, cook, and care for myself. The only thing making me sick was my mother's care. The defense tried arguing that Mom had mental health issues herself, that she genuinely believed she was helping me, but her diary proved otherwise. She calculated exactly how to keep me dependent while collecting my disability payments. Kate's testimony was a desperate attempt to minimize her role. I thought Mom knew best. I'm a nurse, but she's our mother. The judge's verdict was clear. Mom received 8 years for medical abuse, fraud, and financial exploitation. Kate got 3 years probation, community service, and a permanently revoked nursing license. As they led Mom away, she called out, "Who's going to take care of you?" I smiled, finally free from her question. "I will." Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered, but Aunt Lisa helped me navigate through them to her car. We drove to my client meeting in comfortable silence. "You know," she said finally, "your mom tried this controlling behavior with me when we were young." I cut contact. Sometimes I wonder if I should have fought harder, reported her. "Maybe then." "You couldn't have known," I assured her. "But you believed me when it mattered." The client meeting went perfectly. My portfolio impressed them, and my steady hands demonstrated detailed digital artwork with precision. They commissioned a full branding package, my biggest project yet. That evening, I hosted a small dinner party in my apartment. Linda, the ER nurse who first discovered the abuse, came with her husband. Detective Morris brought wine. Aunt Lisa made her famous lasagna. My new friends from the survivor support group filled my home with genuine laughter. My phone buzzed with a text from Kate's husband. "The kids miss their aunt. When you're ready, we'd love to rebuild." I marked it read, but didn't respond. My therapist said healing happens on my timeline, not anyone else's. After my guests left, I stood on my small balcony, breathing in the night air. My easel waited inside, a half-finished commission taking shape on the canvas. My medication schedule was posted on the fridge, managed by me alone. My hands, steady and strong, gripped the railing. The city lights blurred as tears finally came, not of sadness or anger, but relief. 2 years of fog had lifted. My condition wasn't gone, but it was managed. My career was growing. My home was my own. My phone buzzed again. Another client referral. I smiled, wiping my eyes. Tomorrow I would wake up, take my correctly dosed medication, and continue building my new life. My mother's special cabinet was gone, but my art supply cabinet was full. My sister's judgment was silent, but my client's praise was loud. I was no longer the family's sick little girl. I was just Sarah, artist, survivor, and finally, wonderfully free.